March Comes in Like a Lion Season 2 has been a great season for me, and it always has been ever since I started watching its first season. It's been a while since I've last looked at the show in a format such as this, but something occurred to me while I was watching the latest episode that I want to talk about. Other than being completely amazed by what's happening in this bully arc, which I don't know if that's actually what the author wants to call it, but that's what I'm calling it, I also began to realize that the arc is a departure from the show. It seems strange and jarring that we move from Rei's character arc and stories to this alternative narrative. The Kawamotos for me serve to juxtapose Rei's demeanor and life as this secondary family. I didn't need to know much about them or their own troubles, and although those troubles were lightly hinted, I was fine in just having them be a source of support for Rei. But season 2 has placed most of that in a strange position by shifting the focus of the show, and I feel like for those that weren't expecting such a shift, like me for example, that it may be a detriment to the show, especially if you didn't like the Kawamotos. But I actually enjoyed this shift in focus, and I really liked seeing them become the forefront. This new arc for me doesn't just give us this amazing dive into the story of a bully's victim, but also ties directly with Rei's own character arc. In that way, this out of place shift is a vital part of Rei's development. After all, it's because of this new arc that I think Rei has finally realized where he wants to be and what he wants to do. Rei has gone through a lot of things in his life that's made him the way he is. A very passive character who harbors great emotional baggage. And the only light that he seems to have is Shogi. It's an important part of his character, and is the only avenue he has to expand his horizons and meet the people in his life. And this focus of Shogi throughout the most part of the first season reflects Rei appropriately, since that's all he knows. The progression of the narrative hinges on these matches and tournaments that Rei finds himself in. But this isn't something that Rei particularly finds joy in, at least not in the same way that someone like Nikaido enjoys Shogi. He's very much being strung along by his talents and by the symbolic meaning that Shogi has regarding his father. With all of that in mind, Rei's life, despite being placed down this path of a Shogi prodigy, is very much out of his control. He plays in official matches and constantly wants to improve, but I feel like even in that world, he's very much somebody that's there just to be there. It's all that he has, but that doesn't mean that it's necessarily what he wants to do, nor where he wants to be. That aspect of his character isn't something he has complete control over. Not until he meets a family that ends up changing his life forever. The Kawamotos serve as this safe haven for Rei in many departments. It's a place that he can find comfort in, and it allows him to be at ease. It strips away what his life has been building up for. In this household, he doesn't need to be a Shogi prodigy. Here, he can just be Rei. And the Kawamotos themselves are also very helpful in that regard. They care for Rei, and they genuinely worry about him, always being there for him and keeping an eye on him. But as is mentioned by his teacher, to accept that kind of help is also to place an expectation on Rei to eventually repay that same kindness. And that kindness for Rei means the world to him, citing that the Kawamotos had saved his life. But despite realizing that, he doesn't have the opportunity to repay that kindness. He has to keep living with that burden, eating away at him as they continue to shower him with care and love. And I'm sure just leaving his feelings lingering and not giving Rei a chance to do something would be unsatisfying from the standpoint of the narrative. Hinting at this development and showing us how much Rei cares for the Kawamotos without actually giving him a chance to repay that kindness wouldn't be very good, at least not for me. It's a kind of a weird, really bad tease if you just let it drop and not actually play off of that. That turn in his character and that twist in development where Rei can be the one helping others is so vital for him, and also for us now that we're clued in on his feelings. But it doesn't have to be anything related to Shogi. It doesn't need to be, since the Kawamotos represent everything outside of that road to Rei. And so this all accumulates to the current Hinata bully arc. This seemingly out of place arc serves as a way for Rei to finally pay off the feelings that he's always kept within him. It's his way of finally being able to lend his own strength for the people that has always done so for him. Rei plays a vital part in this entire fiasco, even if he's not shown for a good portion of it. And we see him trying his very best, being so out of character and actually wanting to do something for the people he cares about. This arc for me wasn't just about this deep exploration of what bullying can do. It also served as a way to develop Rei's character to a length beyond what his shogi friends and world have shown. The Kawamotos have always brought Rei out of his dredging world of shogi, and the most help that he's been able to give to the Kawamotos isn't from his strength of shogi, but him just being a good person and being there for Hinata when she needs it. His shogi alone can't solve anything for them, and he realizes this, pushing on as himself and as a friend, taking the kindness he had received and repaying that in full, fulfilling that character development that had been teased prior. And of course, throughout the bullying arc is still Rei's own climb in the shogi world. That part hasn't been ignored, and the characters that we find out about in that world are still shown. We still get these snippets of these newer people that aren't related to the bully arc, but still give us those hints that they aren't totally shafting away that shogi part of the first season. And at the same time, this weird mismatch also parallels Rei's situation, since his mind isn't set in the shogi world either. There's no need to pack the season up with a myriad of games or even his own direct development. In the end, his passions all converge towards helping Hinata as she's going through such a tough time. This is where he belongs, with the family that has saved him, and this is what he wants to do, helping them. It has nothing to do with shogi, and it doesn't need to, and it really shouldn't. This isn't what the point of his character development and arc is. We're developing him as a character, a person, beyond just being a shogi machine. And I'm extremely glad that this arc does exist, to not only showcase this other side of Rei, but to so perfectly encapsulate a topic as touchy as bullying, and to really not hold anything back. Even if someone hasn't watched the show, I feel like I can drop this arc on them out of context and it could still be a really good case of the effects of bullying and what that can do. But the small qualms that I do have about this arc is that it doesn't push the narrative as much, since it does deal with character building for Rei and the side cast. And this character building, this need to repay the debt of the kindness shown by others, could have easily been written with someone in his shogi vicinity like Nikaido, and then have the Kawamotos shoehorned in there without the bullying. However, for me that loses the overall effect of having Rei be involved in a situation that doesn't involve shogi. After all, Rei is still a human in the end, and I feel like he needs to experience these problems and feelings that derive from this other world that he seems to be so detached from. Having the bullying arc allows him to find this link to the other side of him that he doesn't have a good chance of expressing, that human side of him. And in doing so, it does still become an almost weird disposition with the first half, but I feel like that effect is also rubbed off on Rei's character, since his feelings of wanting to help are new to him as well. So everything kind of matches in a way that doesn't really push the narrative, which in some cases can be bad because we're not really moving as far as the first season got us. But this is, again, an arc mainly just for character building and really developing the world and these people and getting us really attached to the people that we've, met, but not really developed throughout the first season. In the end, this Hinata bullying arc is a departure from what the show had previously been, but it's not a departure done that reduces the show in any way. On the contrary, I find that the arc complements Rei's character development by allowing him a chance to finally find something that he wants to do in protecting the people that has cared for him. He can finally pay off the debt he finds himself owing to the Kawamotos and makes bounds to pursue the situation in a way that he's never shown before. For me, this arc is incredibly well placed considering the involvement that Rei has, alongside creating for me an amazing example of the effects that bullying can have on people, and the eventual light that streams through the strength and being able to stand up for what you believe in.